Hello everyone, it's Vivi and welcome to another Rift Apart video. As the title suggests, yes, there will be spoilers in the video, so watch this at your own discretion. A couple days prior to the launch of Rift Apart, Insomnia Games tweeted photos surrounding different IPs, Sony IPs especially. Each of their posts on Twitter featured hashtag Ratchet PS5 Takeover, where Clank, Rivet, and Ratchet took over IG's Twitter. Within those posts, we either had a character popping out of a rift, an object, or a robot. During June 7th's Ratchet PS5 takeover, Clank stated the following: "It seems this device can drop objects from other dimensions into ours. Fascinating." It turns out all these references to other Sony IPs, while one isn't really owned by Sony, wasn't owned by Sony. I'm looking at Sunset Overdrive. Well, it turns out all these references are tied to the Rhino 8. What this weapon does, not only does it create a shockwave when you fire, but it also opens a rift with an object character falling, ultimately acting as an Easter egg. Once these objects fall, they cause more damage. The Rhino 8, by the way, is unlocked by finding all 10 spy bots within this game and then talking to Mrs. Zircon. Upgrading the weapon using Raritanium makes sure you'll have objects or Easter eggs pop up eventually. Apart from that, spy bots give you history surrounding the planets and areas we explore in the game. So with that said, let's dive into the Rhino 8's Easter eggs. By the way, the majority of the screenshots in this video come from IGN. If not, the name will appear on screen. First off, we have Fizzy, a mascot from a fictional company called Fisco within Sunset Overdrive. It's a game developed by Insomnia Games in 2014. Quite honestly, perhaps many, including myself, thought that this picture on Twitter was a tease at a console port. As you may all know, Sunset Overdrive was an Xbox exclusive. It is currently unclear if Sony really owns the Sunset Overdrive IP, since they acquired Insomnia Games. All we know is that Sony registered a trademark for Sunset Overdrive. Many had found it weird that both Sunset Overdrive account and the Fizzy account on Twitter tweeted after so long. But seeing as how we're going to see more Easter eggs in Rift Apart, all this tease was simply, an Easter egg, because nothing else came out of this afterwards, just looking at Sunset Overdrive. Next up, we got Marin's submarine, the SS Annen. This is a reference to Insomniac's Song of the Deep, a game which community lead James Stevenson deemed a dream project at Insomnia Games. They had teamed up with Game Trust, a publishing division created by GameStop in 2016. Song of the Deep was certainly a different project for IG, with its Metroidvania 2D style of game. The story of this game was inspired by Insomnia Games' chief creative officer, Brian Hastings' daughter. Hastings even went on to create a novel for this game, which released on the same day as the game's launch. According to Insomnia Games' website, Song of the Deep has a simple and compelling message. No matter who you are, you have the ability to overcome adversity when you don't give up. Next up, we got the Thunderjaw from Horizon Zero Dawn. This one was already hinted at on Twitter a couple days before the game's launch. During the PS5 takeover. Next one would be the Sawtooth, Horizon Zero Dawn again. This one was discovered after people played the game. Next up, we got the Furba Dagger from Uncharted 2, which acted as a key to the city of Shambhala. Speaking of Uncharted 4 this time, we got the Jeep. This one was also teased during the Twitter event Ratchet PS5 Takeover. Now within the game itself, the telltale sign of this indeed being that Jeep from that game, while the Roadhog rental sticker. Next one. We're still looking at the Rhino 8, by the way. Hog Wild, aka Sully's Plane. Sully's Plane was featured in Uncharted 1 and in Uncharted 2's multiplayer. The plane got destroyed in the first game, and Sully got a new blue one in the third game. Blargian Snagglebeast from the 2016 game. Originally, this beast appeared in the 2002 classic, and then was reimagined into this one for the 2016 game. Next up, we got the Plains Beast. These are native-friendly creatures to planet Savali. The first time I saw this creature, I thought back to the Agorian Beast from A Crack in Time. Agorians would ride these beasts in that game. Face Quartz. This is the element needed to make the Dimensionator functional. Clank's newly redesigned Dimensionator. Next up, a sheep, which I take it is a reference to the Sheepinator. Speaking of sheep, the sheep we have at Zerky's is indeed an alternate Drek, something I thought would be a possibility ever since we got the story overview trailer on May 25th. Looking at the actual description under the gallery section, the most regular customer at Zerky's 3 years running, this sheep has a stool reserved at the gastropub counter where they spend their days chewing grass and staring straight ahead, seemingly into the void. Some say they've heard it mutter frustrated nothings, others whisper that they've never seen it leave its chair. But one thing everyone knows for sure, after being sheepinated by the Emperor all those years ago, Drek has never been the same. If you recall, in the 2016 reimagining, our reimagined nefarious sheepinated Drek and met his end on New Quartu. There's a goon's dropship. When using the Rhino 8, sometimes it pops up as well. We got a Grunthor, native species to Sargasso, not so friendly. A precursor orb. Is this leading to what I think it is? Well, yes. Seeing a good old precursor orb, I mean, we also got Jak and Daxter. That's what I was getting to. Jak lands in a crouching position. As he gets up, Daxter runs up to his shoulder. From the stuff I've seen, sometimes Daxter doesn't appear, and yet Jak still has that same animation, nudging his shoulder. Looking at his model from close-up, this is what Jak could look like on a next-gen console. Same style of visuals as Rift Apart. At least that's what I think they tried to show here. This is how I personally imagine Jak looking like, if a new game ever comes to fruition one day. Daxter, however, looks like he's seen things. Our PlayStation trio ain't complete without our beloved raccoon, Sly Cooper. Sly was already teased during Ratchet PS5 takeover on Twitter. Ratchet said this on June 7th. Did that sly-looking raccoon just get pulled into an open rift? Ha! Clever. So when the Rhino 8 is used, Sly simply lands. He looks around and disappears. I would have honestly loved to see what Sly would have looked like in Rift Apart style, at least something close to it. Just like what we had with Jak appearing out of that rift. You know, CG. I know we have a CG form of Sly in the never ever, released movie, but I would have loved to see something which is similar to Rift Apart's aesthetic. Here it seems they straight up took the model from Sly 3. We also got Bentley. However, there is no sign of Murray. Next up, maybe you guessed this one right. The Cooper van also appears just like that Jeep from Uncharted. The van just falls and disappears. Again, I would have loved to see a modern take on the van with today's graphical prowess. Overcharged Delirium XT Keg from Sunset Overdrive. This energy drink was distributed by the fictional Fisco company in the game. Lore-wise, these drinks were deemed unsafe and turned people into overcharged drinkers, aka zombies. Moving on from the Rhino 8. On our Dolus, we got a reference to the Pirates of the Caribbean, either from the movie with Jack Sparrow or the actual ride at Disneyland. We have the dog holding a key to the cell, the pirates, trying to lure the dog into allowing them to escape. Gold bolts. The way the gold bolts behave in this game, well, you unlock rewards, be it aesthetic or cheats, like unlimited ammo and unlimited health. There are 25 gold bolts to collect in this game. It doesn't matter in what order you find these bolts. It all depends on how many you've collected. Actually, every time you collect a gold bolt, you unlock a new reward. Now, when you collect 2 gold bolts, you can swap out your bolts with different objects. We got the Delirium XT cans, which acted as currency in Sunset Overdrive. We got orbs, which resemble the ones in God of War. We have rupees from The Legend of Zelda, as well as coins that seem to have like a Lombax logo on them, but coins which could resemble Mario's. When you collect 12 gold bolts, you unlock a wrench swap pack. When you unlock 13, clever,
12 keys we have now. Leaving just one more.
You unlock a hammer swap pack, and one of them really stands out. Now you'll understand why I said clever. Just looking at the hammer and wrench swap pack, you're gonna tell me that's not a Keyblade? Yeah, the dog behind the prison cell on Ardolus has the same key in its mouth, but I have a feeling IG knew what they were thinking when putting a key. They don't call it a Keyblade, it's just called key. A keychain would have been cherry on top. I love the theme of this Keyblade, it fits the world of Ratchet. If it is a Keyblade, I believe it is a Keyblade. Ratchet with a Keyblade! It looks pretty epic, I'm not gonna lie. Some might say, but he's holding it backwards, because looking at the main protagonist from the Kingdom Hearts series, Sora, he fights with a blunt side. But hey, just this reference alone is super sweet. By the way, for those who don't know, a Keyblade, it does pack a punch with its magic. A Keyblade, by the way, long story short, it's a vital weapon used to fight against the darkness. Ratchet easily would fall in the category of a worthy hero capable of wielding a Keyblade. So does this mean Ratchet and Rivet's world is part of the fictional realm or unreality? I don't expect every one of you to understand what I just said. But hey, me being a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts, this really did put a smile on my face.
Where voices can't reach. The other side of our world. Of reality. Unreality. A fictional world.
Fictional?
I believe there is Kingdom Hearts fans within IG's North Carolina studio. From a 2017 picture I recall, someone was dressed up as Sora. Next, we got the Insomnia Games' logo in the corner at Zerkie's. There are a couple references in the trophies list. Too Fuzz, Too Furious, I mean, Fast and Furious series. Lombax and Chill, you know, the whole Netflix thing. Must Go Faster, it could be a reference to Jurassic Park. Now, if you go back to Zordoom Prison, Rivet reminisces her past with someone named Angela. Angela Cross? Most likely.
Last time I broke out of this place was with Angela. Haven't seen her in a long time.
I won't say too much here, but I'll just say it's a nice nod to going commando. At the same time, I'm like, why does Insomnia Games keep making references to Angela knowing that she's ultimately a can of worms? Anywho, next up, we got All For One referenced at Zerkie's Gastropub. We can notice artwork for that game on arcade machines and Space Pirates playing the actual game on one of these machines. A couple of oldies. By oldies, I mean they were discovered quite a while back. Heck, the first time the game was announced even. Thought it'd be neat to still mention them here. We have Dallas and Juanita on a monitor in Nefarious City. These two characters who originally acted as hosts at Dread Zone in Deadlocked, well, they also appeared in the 2016 reimagining and movie as pretty much news anchors. Now looking at Nefarious City, another one would be the Megacorp logos, the Protopets even. On June 10th, 2021, one day before the launch of Rift Apart, IG had a live stream. They played the initial portion of the game and they actually talked about the Megacorp logos surrounding Nefarious City, whether they portrayed alternate dimensional counterparts. IG simply said that those logos plastered all around Nefarious City was just artists cutting corners. In other words, those logos referencing Going Commando aren't anything significant really. We also have Dan Johnson, spotted at Zerkie's Gastropub. There's a Dan figure sitting right there in the corner. Dan Johnson, if you're not aware, was an artist at Insomnia Games who sadly passed in 2006. As tribute, IG always puts references of him. Only times he didn't appear in the series would be Deadlocked and Going Mobile. Last part of the video, let's talk about the Lorbs. As you make your way through Savali with Ratchet, you meet a monk called, well, Monk Scholar. He explains that Lombax has built a shrine ages ago containing a Lorb, which contains ancient info. Ratchet, being a Lombax, finds 12 of these shrines and unlocks 12 Lorbs. Orbs with lore. Orbs containing lore. Lorbs. I heard this one and I was like, okay, that's clever. Now, the more Lorbs you collect, the more armor pieces get rewarded to you by this monk. Within these entries, some dimensions mentioned by Mags, the voice in these recordings, they're straight up references to other games, Sony games mainly. Mags, being another Lombax, was tasked by Caden, yes, Caden, to map all dimensions.
My dad was the keeper of the Dimensionator. The original one, anyway.
I'll discuss Lorbs in more detail in a future video because I find it very interesting. The point right now is, well, let's take a look at entry number 3. It's a reference to Sly Cooper. Have a listen.
Mapped my first dimension today. Pretty standard stuff. Except the colors there were so vivid, like, whoa. And there were these creatures. One of them even looked like a Lombax, but he had smaller ears, a mask, and a cane, and I think he was pulling some kind of heist? Whatever it was, it looked cool.
Entry 4 would be Knack.
Second dimension down, not as colorful as the first one, but the creatures were definitely stranger. Their bodies were made out of all these old relics, but they could break apart and still be alive. It was so wild. And now I wish I had asked Caden for more time. I just want to learn the stories of all these dimensions.
As for the next entry, I wasn't sure what it was referring to. Cubes didn't really ring a bell. Many believe this one is a reference to Intelligent Cube from 1997. Have a listen.
Third dimension was cubes. Really smart cubes. I don't know what else to say there, except that I might have to stop doing these for every dimension I visit because there's a little bit less than an infinite amount left, and I could have mapped 32 in the time since I started talking. Yeah, okay, fine.
Entry 7, Dimension 31x7. This is without a doubt Jack and Daxter.
I know I was going to stop doing these recordings, but I can carve out some time every once in a while. Just, I'm a genius. Dimension 31x7, not super different from home, but there were these creatures. One was firing a gun and spinning himself around every other second, while the other hung out on his shoulder doing live commentary. Oh, I wanted to hang out with them so badly.
Entry 9, Dimension 24-2Y8, Little Big Planet.
Dimension 242Y8, quite possibly the cutest dimension I've ever seen. Oh, the inhabitants were all made out of wool, I think. They could literally make anything. And there was a really pleasant voice following me around everywhere. Oh, it was incredible. Oh, and what's even better? I think I'm finally close to mapping my last dimension.
Alas, Easter egg or not, the fact Mags explored dimensions we're all aware of, other video games, it's interesting. Sly, Jack, and whoever or whatever mentioned in these entries, it seems to indicate that they all exist in the same universe, albeit scattered throughout different dimensions. So yeah, like I said, I will dive deeper into the Lorbs, because it's just too interesting. Alright, so with that being said, if I missed anything interesting, feel free to mention it in the comments section below, and as always, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate the support, and as always, I've been Vivi, and until next time.